Yeah, I did stop recording and then we officially started it. So this will be the replay version. Let me know if you're missing something. Okay. Well, happy Thursday. I'm just going to give everyone, I see a lot of new faces today. So just a quick update where to find us and all of those things. We are coaching businesses for success. So if you are looking for us, you can find us on YouTube or podcast. On this call is all about you. It is a free coaching call. Megan and I share what we do for our own bookkeeping businesses, what's working, what's not. All of those things. Q&A does happen at the end of the call. So if you have questions, if you need coaching to help you grow your bookkeeping business, do join in the Zoom call. We'll invite you to unmute. We'll invite you to unmute, ask questions. If you want to post your questions in the chat, feel free. Lonnie shared that she said she's so thankful to have the support of all the coaches in CB for us. Running a bookkeeping business isn't easy with so many different situations that can arise that I haven't run into before. Whether it's a payroll issue, an e-commerce client with software I'm not familiar with, or I just need help troubleshooting, there's sure to be a coach who can help. Additional support with marketing and mindset, co-working calls, and flexible times to schedule one-to-one help are just a few more reasons the group has helped me continue to run a successful bookkeeping business. So congrats, Lonnie. We love working with you. If you want our upcoming events, so if you want up to date links to this call, things like that, you can get those added using this QR code here. Today, we are talking about replacing your 9-to-5 through bookkeeping. So I'm going to stop sharing. I think everybody joined that wanted to join. Okay, cool. Okay, so today, if you're short on time, how do you make the time to get started in a bookkeeping business? How do you, when you're working a 9-to-5, how do you start to transition into a side hustle without going absolutely crazy? Megan and I both have done this before, and so we're going to share with you today some of our experiences and then how you can actually start to do it yourself. Okay. So if you're short on time, how do you make it work? How do you make the time? I'm just going to start. When I started mine, I was a full-time stay-at-home mom. So I had left corporate accounting. I have a master's degree in accounting, was at CPA firms, then transitioned to public accounting. So I worked for a publicly traded company in Arizona. So stocks, all of that stuff. Doing month-end close, and decided I didn't want to do that. 50-hour weeks while I had a newborn. So I did leave, went to be a stay-at-home mom. 2 years after that, I had a lot of people in my community kind of asking for that need. And so I secretly decided I would step out and see what it would look like without letting them know. So I kind of started growing my business in private under the radar. And what I found that I had to do, though, was there were 3 points in the day where I would market. So it didn't matter when those were. Anytime I could pick up my phone. So my rule was when my kids' eyes were asleep, because I had two and under at that point in time. So if their eyes were closed, I could be on my phone, and or if they were like super heavily distracted, but really like if they were in my lap, like eyes were closed if I were on my phone. That was just what worked for me at that time. So that's what I marketed. That's when I was messaging people, talking to people, and doing all of those things. And then once I got clients, so actually I wound up getting clients kind of first before I started that 3 times a day. I worked about 2 hours a night, only 3 days a week. I found Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays worked best for me, because by the time Wednesday rolled around, I needed a break. And then Friday, it was, into the weekend, because, we weren't really used to me working at all right at that point in time. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays or the pace that I could keep, I found that I could work 2 to 2.5 hours max before my brain kind of shut off. You need sleep when you're starting to grow your bookkeeping business. Like, we're going to sacrifice some of it, but you need some. You cannot long-term sustain not having sleep. So I do not recommend like working till 4 a.m., and then getting up at 6 long-term. That you're welcome to do it once, twice a quarter, but I wouldn't make it a habit. And I don't think you have to grow your business to 6 figures. Megan, you did something similar. You were working a full-time job while growing your business. Can you share what you kind of did with you had a juggling act?
Yep, definitely. So, any of y'all that don't know me or know my background, I am a single mom. So my daughter was 11 at the time. And whenever I started my bookkeeping business, I was working full time, and where we were living and between leaving my house, dropping my kid off, getting to work, it was a 2-hour commute. So I had 4 hours in the car every day, on top of working full time. And a lot of times that meant I was working every other Saturday or whatever they needed me to too. So the reason I started it was because I wanted some time freedom because my daughter was starting to get active and baton twirling and stuff like that. And work wasn't letting me take off. So I started the business to focus on that. But that did mean a lot of getting up early in the morning. My lunch breaks, any break that I had was spent marketing, learning, whatever I needed to do. When I got home in the evening, staying up late, doing those things. So it was a lot of, and it was also like planned out. And I'm going to tell you the only thing that I feel like really pushed me and helped me to keep going was those 4 hours in the car. I was especially on the way to work, I was listening to some type of mindset related something, because trying to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning after you've been up till 10 or 11 o'clock at night because we wasn't getting home till 8, like you're absolutely exhausted. Like, I don't want to do this. I can't do this is kind of where your mindset is and you feel. And I have a ton of health issues, so that wasn't helping on top of that. So I would listen to the mindset stuff on the way to work. On the way home, I was either listening to mindset or something to help me learn more about the bookkeeping or hopping on calls with potential clients or whatever I needed to do. I was trying to utilize as much of that time as I could for that. Because there was plenty of days where I was like, I'm exhausted. I'm ready to quit. This isn't going to work. I'm going to give up, whatever. But I would listen to something that kind of got me back in the right frame of mind. And then Saturdays, after I got off, or if I wasn't working, those days were typically spent working nonstop too, trying to get my business going. I was marketing like crazy at that time. So lunch breaks, I was posting on Facebook, whatever I needed to do, showing up to meetings if I needed to. But then Sundays, I had no choice. That was kind of a day where I just shut it down completely. Sometimes, of course, there would be something I felt like I needed to do. But I would shut it down completely. And it was like, hey, we have to prep and get ready for the next week. Or like, we're sleeping all day today because I'm absolutely exhausted from everything that's happened this week. But it was important, like for me to, especially health issues wise, to realize that. But it had literally gotten to the point in my business where I was like, okay, either I leave my full-time job or I quit my business, because like my business was growing so fast and like I just physically didn't have enough time. But it was a lot of scheduling, planning, and knowing what my body could handle too. So it's definitely possible while working full time, kids, all the things.
It absolutely is. And I think it's so important to really know why you're doing
Definitely.
it. So for me, when I first started, I had a specific dollar amount and it was for the specific goal. Well, after I decided to actually do it. So when I first started, it was just a pure experiment. Does this marketing method work? And I was going to give it to my husband. Hey, do this for his thing that he wanted to do. And sure enough, it was working. It was something that worked for me. And we wound up deciding to keep the bookkeeping business going, and it's still going strong to this day. So now I've changed marketing the way I do marketing and all of those things now. But for then, it worked really well. And it was something I was able to do without showing my face, without leaving my house, because that just wasn't an option for me at that point in time. Later, it became an option, and I get to interact with a lot of people now. But at that point in time, it wasn't an option. And sometimes I think there is a mindset like, is it really not an option, or are you just not wanting to do it? Well, in that particular instance, it was part of my why. And because it was part of my why, I was able to craft the business around that why. So I didn't have to compromise the why to grow the business. Does that make sense? So I wanted to be home with my kids. I wanted the flexibility. I wanted to work around that. And I wanted something that I could pick up and put down. And bookkeeping isn't totally that, but it also is. Because if the kids are sick on Monday and Tuesday, I can work on Wednesday, Thursday. And I can be fully present with them on Monday and Tuesday. I think most of my clients I don't meet with on a regular basis. I send them financials, but I don't talk to them on the phone. And I don't meet with them on like a scheduled calendar basis. Therefore, they don't know when I'm working on their books. They don't know if I'm working at 2 a.m. They don't know if I'm working at 8 a.m., you know? So crafting that business around it can start soon, and we can always reevaluate it with seasons. But knowing your why keeps you when it gets boring, when it gets hard, when you don't want to show up for it, because there will be those seasons. And I think everyone should prepare for when they're not excited about the bookkeeping business anymore. So you're going to work for 6 months on it. You're going to, whatever that time frame is, or you're going to work through this season, and then you can reevaluate. Do I want to continue? But give yourself like, try it out. Like, do I want to continue after this point in time?
Yeah.
And I think you'll be surprised at like, if you commit wholeheartedly for 6 months, and I mean wholeheartedly, like not shiny object syndrome, trying all the things, but like devise a plan and follow the plan. Once you get to that point, 6 months, you'll be surprised at how much you can accomplish in the bookkeeping business. I also kind of wanted to say, so like, weeks are short. It feels like, okay, I've got all week long to do this. Sometimes in a 9 to 5, it can feel like a really long week because you're not really maximizing your time, or you don't have to, because you just have to like be, you know, in your seat from an employee perspective. But as a business owner, you don't have to be in the seat. You can go run errands, you can go do things. It's easy to get distracted. And you do have to prove to yourself that you are disciplined enough to be a business owner and not just an employee. That is a huge shift, because you're the one setting the schedule. You're the one showing up for you. No one makes you show up. Not the client, not a boss. The clients aren't your boss. If it feels like the clients are your boss, let's talk boundaries and shifting that. Because your clients are not your boss. You do serve them, you're providing a service. And that is a shift that you will have to make. If you're leaving a 9 to 5. I have yet to see someone who really doesn't have to make that shift if they've been employee for any amount of time. So planning the week out, this is exactly what I need to do this week. Maybe you're just starting out and you have nothing. You just found us, you're like, ooh, you can make money with this, great. So what do you first need to do? You might want a logo. You probably want an LLC, and then you're going to need training. You're going to need business insurance. You're going to need QuickBooks Online accountant. I'll get to that towards the end, where I give you kind of a step. But if you give yourself, 10 hours, 8 hours to do a logo, it's going to take you all 8 hours to do a logo. If you give yourself 30 minutes, you'll get the logo done in 30 minutes. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be good enough to get you started. Guys, I don't even use the same logo I had when I got started. Like, it wasn't a good one, but it was good enough to get started. And I definitely replaced my full-time income with that logo. Like, that was great. It served its purpose for that period of time. And so as you say, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do for clients. This is what I need to do for the cleanup. These are the questions I need answered to keep going. 3 of those a day. right? So if you've got 9 items, you're working 3 days a week, 3 items a day. What are the top three that are essential to getting done? Additional items or bonus, right? That allows us to start planning ahead. So as we plan out this week and we know, okay, next week, I'm going to go ahead and block off some time for some sales calls or networking. I know Wednesday morning, I'm just going to block off, or it's a holiday or something. I'm going to block it off. That way I can work on the business and I'm going to network. That allows you to be thinking this week, oh, I could call my old teacher. Oh, I know my friend just started this business, or oh, I should reconnect with this financial planner. And it allows you to start problem solving as you move forward, because you already have it on the time. Like next week, I did this week. We have a meeting every month, and I knew what we wanted to talk about during that meeting. We had talked last week about needing to talk about this topic, and so all week long I had been thinking about that problem in the back of my mind. I haven't lifted a finger to write anything down. Good, bad, or indifferent, Megan. But the topic was on my mind every week. Like, I think I woke up thinking about this problem, brainstorming this problem, kind of troubleshooting it in the back of my mind before I went to this meeting. And that's what planning ahead does, is, oh, I have this sales call. So you're going to be trying to find people, or you're going to be in the grocery store and someone's going to be like, hey, yeah, I just started an Etsy shop. We are now doing 50,000 a year. I can't believe it, but it is a hot mess. Oh, I work with Etsy sellers. Would you like some help on your bookkeeping? Like, would that help you get it organized? Like, would that help with the overwhelm? Yes, it would. Can we talk more? Right? Like, that's sometimes actually how conversations go. Not always, but it just gives you space to be present and looking for those opportunities. Yeah, Megan, what else would you recommend? Anything else? So I talked about like how to squeeze it in. We talked about how to plan for it. And then we talked about kind of how to work it around your why, like how to make your why so clear that, and maybe we spend more time on that, but like make it so clear that
I think
you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so, because I'm going to tell you, that's probably one of the things that really pushed me to keep going. Because if you've heard me talk about like my very first client, or the very first meeting that I had, she did turn into a client, but like I almost didn't show up because I was like, I have no idea what to even say to this person. But my why is what pushed me to actually walk through the door to do that, and like to show up every day, and all those things. So, and I mean, we see this working with bookkeepers all the time. Sometimes it's like, oh, my why is I just want to get out of debt. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with getting out of debt, but you didn't dig deep enough a lot of times to what that would look like, or what that would mean for you, for your family, like all those things, because it's easy to like all I'm doing is paying off bills. So like if you don't see the bigger picture, if you don't see what that means, that end result, like you may not show up the next day, or then you might close your business and go work for somebody else working 9 to 5 again, or whatever, like give up really easy. So I think digging, like listening to a lot of the mindset stuff whenever I started my business, one thing they always say is like dig deeper, like figure out what your why is. But it should be like deep enough that it makes you emotional, like thinking about what that end result is. And like for me to remind myself, like I would have create a vision board on what that's going to look like for me and my daughter at the end of the day, and then put that on like a picture on the background of my phone, picture on the background of my computer, hanging up where I'm going to see it every day on the refrigerator when I open it, whatever the case is. But so you're constantly reminding yourself, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing this, this is why I got to show up take that extra step. And I think you definitely have to realize, like for me, I kept seeing and hearing people like that they had this freedom, they were able to do these things with this business. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to make this happen, I know working for somebody, that's never going to happen. So like this seems like it's going to be the outlet for me. So you just have to kind of make that commitment but definitely like dig deep enough where you know your why is. Um, like it's strong enough where you're going to keep pushing and like continue to remind yourself every day, like if it means waking up in the morning and reading your goal list or whatever. But like mindset's huge when it comes, and your why and all that, when it comes to all that. It definitely was for me. And I mean, like I said, working with all the bookkeepers, we see that all the time. Like, what is your why? Do you really know why you're pushing to do this? Because that's usually the ones who end up giving up or not giving it everything they have, because they haven't gotten real clear on why they want to do it. And it doesn't mean enough at the end of the day.
Yeah, the more you can identify that to like the nitty gritty, not the, well, I want to set my own schedule. But I want to set my own schedule because like it's the clearer you are, down
Yeah.
to the point that it makes you cry, down to the point that it makes you really excited. And I don't mean excited for like fleeting excitement. Like it has to excite you getting up early. Like if you're not normally a morning person and the solution is to get up early, if you were to put a picture on your alarm clock or on your phone, like a paper picture on your phone so that you saw it, would that get you out of bed? That's how clear that should be. Like,
Yep.
you know, and the reason it needs to be that clear is you're going to get jobs when you're starting out that you're not in love with, that are not glamorous. And as you go, you'll learn to set better boundaries around what you do. But when it gets hard, that why is going to keep you going and you can wrap up, and it's going to keep push you harder to make those boundaries. But it's going to also, what we see is if you take two bookkeepers, one knows I am leaving my 9 to 5 by August this summer because I will not go back to work. My son is entering football and I'm going to be at every game or every practice or whatever it is. Like, in order for this to happen by August, I got to do this. That person compared to the person who's like, oh yeah, it'd be really nice to not go back this fall. The person that has the why is 100% going to go talk to everyone in their path. The person that doesn't know the why is going to be like, well, what's the best way to market? Should I be on Facebook? Should I be on Instagram? The person that knows their why doesn't care. They're going to be finding the conversations. They're going to be on Instagram. They're going to be on Facebook. They're going to be in person. They're just going to be figuring out what works. And then as soon as something works, they're going to double down on that because they're taking action towards that why. Whereas the other person is like, what is the best way to grow this business? There isn't a best way. The best way is one that works for you. Every coach that's in the bookkeeping blueprint that coaches with us, that started this business with us, we all started it together. We've all grown our businesses differently. Our networks look different. Our lives look different. Who we serve looks different. Our boundaries look different. What we're willing to put up with looks different.
Definitely.
So Facebook, LinkedIn, you pick. Instagram, Facebook, you pick. One's not better than the other. You have to know how to use it. You have to know how to show up and talk to that person. And that's what we do. We definitely help you with that. We have a student right now who came to us 3 months ago. I haven't told you who I'm talking about yet, but
Yeah.
I think about she pivoted her target audience, and the change in how she's talking to that person, because she got so clear on, I'm talking to, I'm going to make this up, but I'm talking to Sally who's selling crochet work on Etsy. Like, she got super clear. This is what Sally needs to know. This is what Sally is struggling with. This is how Sally is struggling to grow her business as a whole. And she knows her ideal client so well that when you see her posts compared to other bookkeepers, you're like, is she a bookkeeper? Oh, she's helping me with bookkeeping. And it just clicks. She's serving her audience so well because she's so clear on what her goal is and who she's serving to get to that goal. And she's able to show up and serve them so much better because she's done the work to really work through what was hanging her up. And I've got to tell you, when we say mindset, like when I started a business, everyone's like mindset, mindset, mindset. And I'm like, what? Why? Just go do it. Like I had no understanding of how important actually paying attention to mindset. Like the word just became so cliche to me. And I was like, what? I don't understand. It felt like a wooey word. No offense. It did. Like I was like, I don't understand. Like mindset doesn't fix everything. Go do something, go take action. But mindset is what keeps you from taking the action when you know you should be taking the action. Does that make sense? Like, you're like,
Definitely.
why
And
can't I
look,
do this?
yeah, and Sherry, you've told me that before. You've told me that plenty of times that like now after the fact that like you just like kind of wrote it off every time I would say something like that. And I think, but say, I'm glad you said that because I feel like a lot of people do. But like working with a business coach that we worked with recently, one of the comments she made is starting a business is 80% mindset and 20% you have the knowledge to do it. Like whatever the business is that you're starting, bookkeeping, anything. Because how many people, and we see this all the time, and y'all may not, but how many times do we see people who have an accounting degree who are not running a successful business still because they're making every excuse, mindset is in their way. And then you have other people, and me as an example, I had no background whatsoever, didn't have an accounting degree, but I didn't let the mindset stop me. And I mean, we see that with other people all the time as well who may have no experience. We've seen people get clients who maybe that shouldn't have, but they came and needed coaches. You know, like we were able to support them, help them, get them to the point they need it. But like, so at the end of the day, it's like stop and think, like, what is truly holding you back from getting the clients? Are you not showing up for the marketing? Are you showing up, but how are you showing up? Like all those things. So I think it's super important to take a step back and to say, even to say mindset's so broad, like you still have like a specific, hey, this could be holding you back. So yeah, I'm glad you said that because yeah, we definitely hear that all the time.
And it changes at every level. So like you can
It
think
does.
that, okay, I've conquered the mindset, I've got this, I'm doing this. And then you go to try to level up, and you don't consciously try to level up always, but you try to implement something new. You try to raise your prices, and maybe you're like me, I raised my prices and was on the phone with Megan and like, well, now I can't sign any client over $97 a month. Like this is so far backwards. Who is doing bookkeeping like for $97 a month? Like if they have, you know, like all of this stuff going on, like you definitely could do it for 97. So if you have 90, fine. But like I went so far backwards because I sabotaged myself in how I started showing up with that. Talked to Megan. I couldn't tell you what she told me, but she in essence reassured me, yes, people will sign, get back out there, try again. So there with mindset, like there is like dust off your knees, put a band-aid on, go do it. Like there is definitely action that has to take place, but like sometimes you do need that reassurance. Sometimes you need to refocus your perspective because your lens gets blurry. And so
Yep.
all she did was sharpen my lens. I went back out there, I did what I needed to do, and I was getting clients. I then did sabotage myself. I had a client call me, she saw my marketing and she goes, is this what you do? I never want to do this again, as she was driving to her tax professional with her husband. And I was like, oh, I'd love to do bookkeeping. You know, this is exactly what I do. And instead of quoting her 297, I can do it for 175 a month. They're still like kind of, they're still basically 175 a month. And I don't want them to go because it's such a reminder of like how important it is to like keep to your pricing and how the reality of sabotaging yourself as you move forward. And
Right.
sabotaging can look like letting it take 10 hours to do your logo. That is a form of sabotage. You know it doesn't need to take 10 hours. You know it doesn't have to be perfect, but you're scared of posting it. You're not scared of what the logo looks like. You're scared of what Aunt Sally's going to say on Facebook. There's no reason a logo should take 10 hours if you're not a graphic designer. Like if you're going to Canva to do a logo that has like, pick one, go with it. You can change it and you can make small changes over time. Like, and if you're really stuck on it, sleep on it, put it as a task for next week. And then this week, just kind of look at logos. You know, in your free time, just look around at logos. And as soon as you see something that you like, go recreate it in your own spin, put your own spin on it, make it yours, right? No copying, but like make it yours, own it. Because now you know what you like. So if you're stuck on something, maybe pause, figure out why you're stuck on it. I see this all the time when I am trying to implement something new. I'll start getting snippy with my husband. I'll start getting really short. And I start to realize, oh, I'm scared of doing something. Like, and it's not like I'm scared, like a timid scared. It's just there's something that's challenging me in my own life, like in my own business or in my own whatever, whatever it is I'm doing. I'm not doing something because of this, and I can start to see that. Okay, so we know mindset is important, because mindset can keep us from developing a plan or executing the plan that we've developed. So if you find yourself not executing the plan, you might get on a one-to-one, Megan, and really talk it through. Like, honestly, it's okay. Okay, so how to get started. If you're looking, I would like to replace my 9 to 5. We're telling you we've done this in part-time work. So what we didn't say in our stories was when I grew my business to like the 40,000 mark, so about 3,000 a month, and then plus cleanups. It goes over that, but I wasn't working 40 hours a week by far. I was working probably 20 hours a month at that point in time, max, depending on the month and what I was doing. Megan, I think you were also working part-time up until like a certain point, like as you were growing, as you hit that, you were working part-time. A lot of this goes into marketing more so than the actual work itself.
Yep.
So absolutely. If you don't have bookkeeping training, we have the Bookkeeper Blueprint Fast Start for you that walks you through how to set up your LLC to how to get the deliverables out the door. And then beyond that, how to utilize QuickBooks, how the balance sheet and the profit and loss, how these financial statements all work together, how the cash flow statement works together. It goes into all of that in more detail for you. It has all of your engagement letters, so you don't have to go purchase stuff off of Etsy and this place and that place and tweak it. It's all right there for you. And then you can always edit it for you. You can have a lawyer look at it, beef it up for your purposes and your boundaries that you've set up. The second thing I would do is sign up for QuickBooks Online Accountant, which is free. You do not have to pay for a subscription yourself to do bookkeeping for other people. Inside of QuickBooks Online Accountant, what we find a lot of people don't realize is that also allows you to do bookkeeping for your own business. So you do not need a subscription to do your own business, guys. I did not have people helping me start my own bookkeeping business. And so guess what? I paid for my own subscription for like a few months until I realized it's right there for you. So don't make that mistake. That is free. Then you can set up your actual business. So this is where you name your business. And again, 6 hours, one day, pick the name, go with it. You can always do a DBA later. Now, if you're really hung up on it, I would talk to a lawyer, like a corporation lawyer. If you're like, well, I don't know if I want to use my personal name because of this or that, go talk to a lawyer. If you're really hung up on the legalities of the name, go talk to a lawyer. Other than that, your name, LLC, or something local SEO. I go through like how to name your business and what I would have done like retrospectively. You can also use brand name. Is it like brandname.com? I found it. I found it last week for someone. But it will generate names for you and tell you if the .com is available. So if you really care about the .com being available, just play with that. Pick one that you like. Your voice in how you talk about your business is going to carry a lot more weight than the name itself. Okay. And then the fourth thing, and this is where a lot of people really struggle, is simply letting people know that you have a business. And that doesn't mean you can be like me. You can be quiet about it. But I still let people know. I still had conversations. But I had to figure out where I wanted to do that. So figure out where you want to tell people about your business. Where do you want to find people at? Is that places like Upwork? Is that Facebook? Is that Instagram? So maybe all of your friends are on Facebook. Go to Instagram. Maybe all your friends are on Instagram. Go to Facebook. Go to LinkedIn. Go to Alignable. Absolutely. And just let people know, have conversations. That's the goal. For sure.
Yeah, I think so. Saying that, one of the things that kept pushing me a little bit farther, I feel like, Grant Cardone, 10X Rule, one of my first mindset books that I listened to. And one of the comments that he always makes is, one, you have to make sure everybody knows what you're doing. And one thing that I realized is that doesn't have to be, because some of his stuff, yes, y'all, it's salesy, it's feels spammy and yuck and whatever. But one thing that I realized, like on my own, was that it didn't have to be salesy. It could be natural conversations. So like saying, hey, like make sure everybody knows what you do and what you offer. Every time you're at a like meeting new parents at a sporting event with your kids or whatever, one of the top things, like just to make conversation that people say is like, oh, what do you do? Or whatever. Or if you wear your logo on your shirt, like it's going to bring up conversations naturally, like different things like that. So be thinking about like, how can I do this in a natural way? If you're worried about like, hey, I don't want to feel like all I'm doing is telling people like I'm trying to market to them and sell to them. It doesn't have to be that way. But one of the comments that he makes is, whatever you feel like the average person is doing, you want to be doing 10 times that. So like I would post like once a day or whatever at first. And when I heard that, I'm like, okay, nope, I need to be posting way more than every other day, once a day. Like I started posting a whole bunch of times a day, because you want to get in front of people and do way more. If you want to get, like, the average person's working a 9 to 5, that's not where you want to be. You want to grow a business and be successful. So do 10 times whatever that is. And so, but figure out, like, maybe Facebook isn't your thing. Sherry did Upwork. Some people love in-person networking. And remember, like in the beginning of your business, a lot of times it feels like I'm doing all these things and am I really getting any traction? Like, is anything coming of this? Like, you might not see, like, you're planting all these seeds. You may not see like a result right away. But like, I can tell you, especially probably 2.5, 3 years in, is when I really and truly started seeing tons of people coming in, because I had been marketing. Other people are starting to send referrals my way, because now they've seen what I've done and like all the things. So like, it may not feel like it right away, but the more conversations you have, the more relationships you build, they're gonna pay off. Like, so don't give up, keep doing it. But Sherry says this all the time, like, there's a lot of people that are watching you on social media and everybody's starting a brand new business. Everybody's selling this, everybody's doing that, but they want to make sure you're in it for the long haul, because they don't want to hand their bookkeeping over to somebody who, oh, they're going to do it for 2 months. Now I got to go find another bookkeeper again. So like, if they haven't paid attention, or you feel like they haven't paid attention, they probably are. They're just making sure, like, hey, is she still going to be doing this in a year, in 2 years? Okay, now she's 2 years in, let me reach out and see. Or maybe they just didn't need a bookkeeper at that time or whatever, So like, don't give up and don't feel like it's not getting you anywhere, because it probably is, and you're just not seeing the fruits of those seeds being planted yet.
Yeah, I had that happen. So I transitioned from Upwork to Facebook over time, slowly, and adopted that. And what happened, because earlier in the call, I told you that I kind of started my business twofold. One, as an experiment. Two, because I knew people in my community needed and were already asking me those questions, but I wanted to test it first. So I tested it in private, and then I started sharing it. And what happened was I identified like 3 businesses that needed, it was 4 businesses that needed my services. I have worked with all 4 of them now. 2 of them just came to me this past year because, again, they didn't need me right then. But as soon as they needed me because their bookkeeper transitioned or something, I was their first go-to. I was the first one that they would ever trust after that bookkeeper, right? Because some people have a really hard time trusting people with their books.
Yep.
You know, there's a big trust component. And so just seeing me show up every week, regardless if I posted or not, but like I'm still doing it. I'm, you know, and I'm posting enough for them to know I'm still doing it, right? Like, I built that trust. I was their go-to as soon as something happened in their business. And I was also the go-to, and I think this is what's really, really nice about building an in-person kind of community just through living, because we are community people by nature. Letting your community know, your in-person community, helps on Facebook as well. So if your in-person community is on Facebook or is on Instagram, I would pursue that platform. Wherever your in-person community is, I would pursue it, because they're going to see your stuff and they're going to share it. If they don't share it, they're going to share it verbally when their sister-in-law says, I can't do this with my business anymore. You're going to be the first go-to. Or, you know, now your sister-in-law is doing marriage counseling and she's meeting with someone and their business is a disaster and they're like dealing with back taxes and not stressing their marriage and stuff like that. Like, you don't know who you can serve, but building those relationships. And we kind of talked about that a little bit last week, and the power of word to mouth. We don't want to just rely on word of mouth, but we're there to serve people. And I think
Yep.
sometimes if we get off of this influencer circle that sometimes we get into trying to grow our business, we're on Facebook and we're seeing other people post about their businesses, we can forget we're serving human beings, not a
Yep.
Facebook profile, you know?
Exactly. And like, y'all, fear is not a boss to you. If like, even if you don't think you're struggling with fear, highly, highly recommend it, because there's so much that is mindset related, fear based, that we don't even realize. And one of the comments that she makes in there is to focus on like serving other people, and like how are you, like, if you're not posting or you're not talking to these people, you're doing a disservice to them. Because just like Sherry said, like, how life changing can this be for you to do somebody's bookkeeping for them? I had a client that I did a cleanup job. Like, this happened, we were on competition this past weekend. She reached out to me to do, she wanted to switch over to an S corp is why she reached out. And I'm like, hey, let me review her books. Review her books. She needed a cleanup job. She had already filed her taxes. They told her she owed $20,000. She went and filed the taxes while we're at the competition, sends me a message and said she's now getting a refund. And all of that was because her books were done incorrectly. So like, that saved her $20,000, plus she's getting some back. So like, little, and I'm saying little stuff like that, but stuff like that can be like, that life changing for her. Like, she literally sent me a message, I'm gonna cry right now because I thought I owed 20,000, now I don't. Like, so you don't know how life changing it can be for somebody, because you feel like, oh, I'm just doing somebody's books. No, like, you really could change their life by the services that you're offering. And how many times we have conversations with business owners where it's a husband and wife owned business, they're having issues like with each other because they're fighting about the bookkeeping and whatever. Now you take that off their plate, you might have saved their marriage and not even realize it. So like, by not telling these people, you have no idea what kind of disservice you're doing to them by not doing it. So don't feel salesy about it. Like, that's where mindset comes in. Like, change your approach, change how you're thinking about it, because you really can be like the saving grace that somebody's been praying for and you have no idea.
Yep. A couple of questions that came through. Is it bad if I did a sole prop with a DBA instead of an LLC? No. I mean, ultimately that's a legal question. If you want to ask like your attorney. So when it comes to naming businesses and setting up entity structures, there are a couple of people involved, lawyer and CPA. It's never just a CPA alone because they understand the tax side. A lawyer understands the legal side. You need both of them to work together. A really good book on that, sorry, is called Tax Free Wealth. That brings in and highlights like the tax structure versus and the entity structure. But as far as just getting started, like a sole prop with a DBA is fine. And then this one is asking quoting help. Donna, have you put that in? Have you put the quoting question into the quoting calculator? Sorry, I'm like reading through the quote. So it looks like there's multiple companies there. Okay, it was available to you when you were in the Bookkeeper Blueprint, so you should have a copy. I'll get that out to you. But it looks like there's multiple businesses here. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know why I kept typing to you instead of just jumping on, but yeah,
And
yeah,
then
he has
what is
multiple companies, and so that's why I kind of struggle and want to make sure, even if I throw it in the calculator, if
I
he
would do a
that
separate calculator for each company.
right, a separate calculator for each, but then, you know, I'm assuming that once you add them all together, that's going to be pretty high. So then like, what should I kind of do? So I don't know if I should get in the calculator and then maybe also talk separately with you later. I don't know. I don't want to, I don't want to overdo. I don't want to underdo. He's very much a businessman and is just like, makes a ton and just says, you charge what you think is fair. If you have to up it, I get it. You can just do that. But I also don't want to just like go from him not paying anybody at all to like astronomical. So I just want to make sure I do this right because you can see that this could make or break right here a big difference.
So real quick, there was a mindset thing you did say, going from paying no one to astronomical. I did recently take someone from getting bookkeeping done for free in exchange for their product, which was coffee. So their bookkeeper was doing it in exchange for coffee. She rarely did the books, so he was paying nothing for the books to be done. They weren't done well. I took over, and he was paying me over $1,000 a month to do his books. No questions asked. Right. So, I mean, the quote like what you sent here is probably just about that, but it looks like there's there's 4 companies.
One,
Five. There's 5.
yeah, yeah, and he's really into wanting to track his personal books because of what they do and how they spend, and
Yeah,
so
I do my personal books. And one of my team members actually does my personal books because we've got 4 businesses going on. So there's a need to do the personal.
absolutely.
And so I would run it through the quoting calculator. I personally don't always give a discount for multiple businesses because, especially if they're commingling at all, then trying to track it down if they're just uploading, for me, my poor team member, I will occasionally like upload receipts and realize I've uploaded some personal and business receipts together to her and she sorts them out.
Right.
So if that happens to you, like that does take time. I pay her hourly. She's fine. She's happy for it. But it's a lot. So I would throw it in there. So I will get that to you for sure. But yeah, so I would just run it through the calculator. If you want to do a discount after that, we can talk about that depending on what the quote is. And I just don't remember your minimum on all of those things. So if anyone else is listening, when it comes to quoting, you want to develop a way to quote, whether it's based on our quoting calculator or like number of transactions. We have a calculator detailed, and then in that calculator, there's a second tab if you're like, that's too high or that's too low. Okay, it was an average between all of the coaches. So there's 12 of us that run our own bookkeeping businesses. We all said, hey, how do we all quote? And we brought it all together and we kind of took an average and like most common way to quote. So you can actually fill that out for you. So if you want to be on the higher side, we can tweak it to be on the higher side. If you want to be on the lower side, you can tweak it to be on the lower side. It's kind of set up to be in the middle as it is right now. Megan, that link that you sent is still not working for me.
The one I just sent?
Oh, is that gotcha, I see.
That was just for the book.
Okay, Megan just dropped the link for Fear is Not the Boss of You, which is a great resource. Just getting started. And is that going to be the book that you guys are doing in the mindset call coming up?
Yep, we're gonna start that. Probably. Well, we'll talk about it and probably talk about it next week. Probably start it the following, so everybody has a chance to buy it and
so if you're in Bookkeeper Blueprint. Megan just posted the link to the book that's coming up. She'll post it again for you guys, but if you want to go ahead and get it, feel free. But she always gives you guys enough time to buy the books. Absolutely. Michelle says, if I want to offer more bookkeeping, like advisory and consulting, we do. So I offer a lot of advisory and consulting and have since the very beginning. So when I started my business, I was first doing like waterfall tables for real estate agents, and then a lot of just advisory and consulting. So if you're looking for like depending on what you're looking to do in terms of, are you looking for cash flow or budgeting, things like that. I do tax planning. So I wouldn't necessarily help you on the tax planning itself, but as far as quoting and setting up packages and all of those things, we do. And then in the course itself, we have some tools for you when it comes to advisory, where I've done some trainings on what that would look like to adopt it. Absolutely. Yep. And then there's a couple of coaches who could kind of do one-to-ones, depending on what your questions are for that. Absolutely. But as far as tax planning, like I can help you on the like packaging and stuff side, but we're going to rely on your experience for that. I do it as well. We just don't have like the one-to-ones and the setup for that, if that makes sense. But we can help get you there for sure.
And yeah, if y'all aren't sure if it's something we can help with, we like feel free to send us a message or post in the group and ask. We're happy to let y'all know if we can or we can't. The one-to-ones pretty much can be used for anything as long as we have a coach that's able to support you in it for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, with 12 coaches, there is an awful lot of experience behind all of them.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was talking to Abby this morning. She has property management, Chelsea real estate, Kristen nonprofits, like Abby payroll, myself with accrual accounting, and just a wide variety. So e-commerce, Etsy, Amazon, like Toast, and so a ton of guys. Y'all know how many e-commerce platforms exist out there? It is unreal. So if you run across the platform, we might not know the platform, but we typically know the reports that you need. So if you're willing to click around and get in there, we're willing to get in there with you. But no, if we're getting in there with you, we might spend a whole one-to-one finding those reports. Some of them are pretty hidden and it's not very clear, but we can. I just helped someone with sales tax, like find the reports, and it wasn't as straightforward as you would have thought it would have been.
Right.
But then I'm heavy in the accounting side of things. So if you need help with journal entries, because I know the accounting side so heavily, backing into what you need, and then it's just a software, navigating the software, and we can get you there. So absolutely. Michelle, I would love to talk to you more if as far as advisory, if you want to schedule a one-to-one and set those up. I was working with another tax planning and advisory individual, and okay, Allie, she said she left her number. Can you make sure I have that so that I can connect with her, or that we can connect with her and schedule a call. Just because I know for this other individual, we went from 0 to her packages were 5,000 and she sold several of them. And the money she made back on it was just unreal and super fun. To help her transition from just being a bookkeeper to that. And she was doing her EA, so she had all of that experience and knowledge. It was just getting the packages together and figuring out, how do I offer this all together? What are my options? And then just helping her communicate that to clients. So I love to do that. Absolutely. Okay. Well, yeah. Oh, it's in the sign up, Allie, she said. So, cool, yeah. Anything else, Megan, that you want to add?
No, I think that's everything.
If you guys missed these replays, I think they do get sent out, Allie, via email, but we also upload them to YouTube. We make some edits, so it's a more condensed version. You can actually watch the live replay if you want all of the ums and question answering. That is on YouTube as well. And then we clean it up for a kind of a shorter video too on YouTube. So if you want to catch us there, or a podcast when you're driving, if you're like Megan and you're in the car for 4 hours, hopefully you have a really nice seat in your car.
They're right.
If not, that's part of your why. Cool, Donna. Well, I will see you guys later. I want to respect your time, but if you have any other questions, post those in the Facebook group. We would love to continue the conversation with you there. Bye, guys.
Bye.